Hey guys, it's Julia here, and I'm back with another video, which is talking about a new Windows 11 feature. Now, I'm not sure if you guys know or are aware, but there's something that released called point-in-time restore, which is for Windows 11, and it's now generally available, which I will link this article down in the description of the video, because there's a lot here. But basically, to summarize, it's pretty much a system restore replacement because it's in the troubleshoot menu and you can restore to an exact state, which is pretty much what system restore does. But in this video, we're going to be looking at it, testing it out, seeing how it differs, and seeing what it's resilient against. So without further ado, let's get into this. So as you guys know, this talks about what it is, which it pretty much makes these restore points or snapshots. And it will include your OS, installed apps, system configurations and stuff, settings, and local user files, which this is something that restore points do not include if you use system restore, but this one actually has a snapshot of your files too. So supposedly this is supposed to be a lot better because it captures every 24 hours. However, I believe you can only have up to 3 because it does say it's like 72 hours when I read into this that it keeps up to. But it does say, this is, more resilient and stuff. And this is kind of the differences here between the two. Like these are automatic, system restores event triggered or manual. And this says it apparently has better reliability than system restore. And also this is integrated in settings and all that stuff. And obviously we don't care about Windows 365. We don't really use that, or at least I don't use that. But then it says what's included in the general ability, and here you'll see that you can actually change how often. If you're like an enterprise, I believe you can have more, but by default it's once every 24 hours, but it seems like it's more flexible with enterprise. However, here you could see it only keeps up to 72 hours of restore points, and it says the maximum usage limit apparently is 2% of disk. So supposedly these actually do not take up a lot of space, which, we will check it out. And there's just more about it here. But I'm honestly excited to try this. It does say that you obviously have to have, BitLocker recovery key if the device has BitLocker and all that. It tells you how to restore it and all that. But we will try it and look into this feature. Now, before we actually do anything, I should tell you guys that you do need to be on the latest preview update of Windows 11. So that is build 26100 or 26200.8737. Now this is obviously LTSC that I'm using for this demonstration, but it's in builds 24H2 and 25H2. So as long as you're on one of those and you have this dot number or higher, then you do have point-in-time restore. So essentially, I installed the preview update right here, which will show under optional updates if you go to advanced optional, or it'll just show in Windows Update right here and say it's ready to install. Now, let's actually get into this feature. So if I open up System here and I go to Recovery, you can see point-in-time restores right here. So if I view or edit, which it is going to pop up this UAC prompt, it's turned off by default for me. I'm not sure if that's because I have system restore enabled or because it just doesn't enable by default. But if I go to system security, system and control panel, of course it took me here, but system protection, you could see system restore is on. I have it set higher up because, I don't know how much it'll take, but this is taking like 600 megabytes, almost 700 megabytes. If I go to system restore, I actually made a restore point, and it looks like another one was made today, so Windows also made its own restore point. So we have 2 restore points. If we go back into recovery, point-in-time restore, let's actually enable this, because I wonder, can you have both at the same time? So let's just turn that on, and you can see I cannot adjust any of the settings. I think that's because this doesn't let me, even though this is on enterprise technically, but it's not letting me do anything. But you can see we have the max 2, although it says we can make it higher. So there's no snapshot yet. I wanted to make a snapshot, but I don't know how to trigger this to make a snapshot to be able to show you guys the resiliency of this. But I guess I just need to wait. So it probably doesn't make it initially. It does say our current usage, which is 693 megabytes, so it does use shadow copies just like system restore. I think it just shares it and because it's part of volume shadow copies, and it will make a snapshot. But I see nothing here, and I don't even see a button to create one. So I'm just gonna leave this VM on for a little bit and see if eventually it creates it, which I hope it does. Okay, I gave this a bit of time. Let's view our edit again, and hopefully it's there, which it's still not there. Where is the snapshot? Give me the snapshot, please. Alright guys, so I'm back the next day as I had to figure out how this all worked and also wait around for the VM to actually make the snapshot, which for this I actually installed a Windows 11 Enterprise VM because with the Enterprise LTSC VM I had, all those settings were actually grayed out for some reason despite it being Enterprise. But if I go to recovery here and I actually go to point in time restore, you guys will see this actually created 2 snapshots, and I was able to change this to 4 hours and it was able to actually create. But you can see that this VM actually lets me change the settings as the other one did not. But as you guys may see here, it actually created a snapshot like 2 hours, a little less than 2 hours after the other one. How is that possible when you can only set this to every 4 hours? Well, I will tell you guys. So there's actually a task in Task Scheduler, which is under Microsoft Windows Setup, and it's called PITR task, and it says creates point-in-time restore snapshots. If I click on this, and I go over to the triggers, it says at system startup, which is interesting because it doesn't actually create one at startup, and then a one time, saying, you know, at the time on this day, and then after triggered, repeat every whatever. So repeat every day because I have it set to 24 hours right now. However, where does it pull these settings? Well, there's actually a registry key. So under HK local machine, software, Microsoft Windows, current version, setup, recovery, PITR settings. And you guys can see here. So active UX, I think, tells it if it's active or not. Max global size, I believe, is how big the actual, like, you know, the size limit. So this thing. Max time span is the retention. So right here it's set to 72. And then snapshot interval is what tells it how often to make the snapshots. So the settings are all right here in the registry that you can adjust. Now, let's actually go back to the VM that we couldn't get to make the snapshots, because I'd rather mess with this one. Now, I have to re-enable it on this VM because I don't have point-in-time restore enabled here. As you can see, it's off because I restored the snapshot of the VM. But you can see the task just says at system startup on this VM. And if I go into the settings in the registry, there's nothing. Because obviously it's not configured or anything. There's nothing we could do. However, I'm going to turn this on, and then I'm going to bump up the amount and save. But you can see I still can't change the settings. And even if I go back in, it still won't let me. Which I assume if you're running Home or Pro, these settings might not be adjustable either. They might be grayed out for you guys because it's only supposed to create like every day, but Enterprise can change it. But I don't get it because this VM is Enterprise technically. So maybe it's because it's IoT LTSC, I'm not sure. You guys can look into it if you want. However, let's reopen the registry so that way we can update the actual values. And you can see here, active UX is now 1 and it's set the max global size. Now, where are the other ones? You actually have to create the other keys manually. So now let's start with the snapshot interval, which you will right click new, dword 32-bit value. I'm gonna paste it in because I already had it copied. And then you double click on it, and I'm gonna set this to decimal. And let's say we want it to create every hour. I'm gonna set it to 60 and hit OK. And I could see the value here, the data here is 60. Now, if I close this and I reopen it, you guys will see that it now says restore point frequency every 60 minutes. So every 60 minutes, it's going to actually create one now. Okay, so I decided to create the max time span value with the value 4320, which is the 72 hours. And if I go into here, it will actually be set to 72 hours. However, we can actually change that, which, by the way, I made a snapshot earlier because when I was recording, I ran the task, but we're going to actually change this. So say we want to make the value like something ridiculous, like 50,000 in decimal. If I was to close out of this and go back into here, you could see that it now says 50,000 minutes. So I guess if it's in minutes and not a certain amount of hours, it will just show as minutes, but you can actually change the retention. And obviously, if I close out of this and I just feel like I want to make another snapshot, I could just run the task again, and that will always trigger a snapshot just by running that. So now we have 2 snapshots because I just ran that again. But yeah, this is where all the settings live for this, and you could change them to whatever you want, and all you have to do is create the values if they don't exist and then set them to whatever you want. However, now that we know how all the settings work and how to configure it and how to manually have it create a point-in-time restore, which Microsoft says you can't do, even though I just did it, let's actually get into the experiment that I was going to do for this video. Okay, so before starting the experiment, I want to show one little thing, which if I go to System Protection and I go to System Restore, we do actually have restore points, which is only 1 restore point, but if I go into Recovery, Point-in-Time Restore, you'll see we have 2. So they are both there. You can both have system restore points alongside the point-in-time restore, as they are different things, but they do share the same storage because current usage 453, and if I go back to here, configure, it is 454, which is pretty much the same. But anyways, guys, just to show you, we have our point-in-time restore point there. We go to system restore, all those are there. However, if I go to configure, and because it mentions, this thing about system images, if I delete all of the restore points on the system, which they were deleted successfully because there's none, and I go back to point-in-time restore, it does purge the actual snapshots. So yes, they do use volume shadow copies, and they do use the same storage. So when you delete your system restore points, it also deletes your point-in-time restore points. You can see here we get this message, using system protection on a drive that contains system image backups will cause other shadow copies to be deleted faster than normal, which means that I'm pretty sure point-in-time restore is basically like a system image, because it mentions something about system image backups here. So we will actually see though, because we're actually going to end up restoring this with point-in-time restore, which I did actually set this to 500 minutes for the frequency because before I had it set to 60, and I decided I'm going to use this VM because that other VM kind of gave me problems with this, so getting more into that later. But you can see that I got a few images on here and downloads today. I have some extra text documents that I added some more wallpapers, I added a song, and then I added a random funny video. And the reason I did that is because point-in-time restore supposedly affects user files. So when I restore this, I want, to see that the user files are actually gone. Now, let's actually create a scenario where I would need to use point-in-time restore. Now, I have this little script I wrote a while back, which we are going to actually run. So I'm going to go to this, I'm going to clear the screen, and it's called Service Roulette, which basically will just delete a random Windows service when you run it. But of course, the first one happens to be denied. But I'm going to keep spamming this because it's going to start deleting a ton of services on the system. And as you guys know, services are required for Windows to work properly, and if there's certain services missing, Windows will misbehave, and in some instances, not boot at all. So right now, I'm just spamming it for it to delete a ton of services on this VM, so that way it breaks, and then we can restore it to show that we do get full functionality back. So you kind of have to do quite a bit because I want this VM to for sure break, which I think we probably did enough. If I go into my logs folder, you guys will see that it attempted to delete a ton of stuff. And I'm sure this is probably enough for it to not boot. I mean, come on. Like, it's probably going to be dead. So let's go ahead and restart this virtual machine to see that it's probably going to be bricked. And we'll need to use point-in-time restore to get this back up and running. Now, yes, I can use that system restore point that is there, and it will restore, and I will actually be able to use it, and I won't lose any files. However, this video is not about system restore, it's about point-in-time restore. So you can see it's logging in, but I'm almost certain it's going to get stuck here. It probably deleted the user profile service if I had to guess. And yes, the VM is stuck. So let's just restart it, force reset the VM, I should say. And if you do this enough times during boot, it should go to PITR, but you can see right here it does please wait because I did this earlier, but I got interrupted, so I had to restart the process. However, we're going straight into recovery, and it's diagnosing, so it pretty much is preparing automatic repair. I don't know why it said please wait, probably because I did it earlier and then I forced rebooted it again during PITR, but we are diagnosing, and you can see, oh, it didn't start correctly. Well, advanced and troubleshoot. Now, before I go to point in time restore, let's actually go over to system restore first. Now, I'm not going to actually do this, but this will work. If I restore this, it will work. You don't lose user files, surprisingly no programs, but that one will work. But in this case, we're going to use the point in time restore feature because it's brand new. And you can see, select a restore point to restore your PC to the exact date it was in at an earlier point in time. Learn more, and it gives a link, and there's 2. And we have 2 to choose from. But we're going to choose the newer one. And then it says, all changes made on this PC after restore point will be lost. This includes data, documents, downloads, installed apps and configuration, system settings, update and other changes, or updates and other changes, passwords, secrets, certificate keys, data stored in cloud services like OneDrive won't be lost. By continuing, you acknowledge the risks and limitations with this feature, which may include data loss. Learn more at that. Okay. Continue. And then, point in time restore. You're about to restore your PC to the exact state it was in at the selected restore point. This action can't be undone. Warning, all changes made on this PC after restore point will be lost. Gives us the restore point, the OS version, and then says, keep your PC powered on during the restore. Plug your PC into a power source to avoid interruptions. Learn more. It loves to say that learn more part. Restore. And now it says, preparing. Keep your device on. Okay. So we're actually using a point-in-time restore, which, by the way, this is the first time I'd actually done this. So this is the first time I'm actually seeing this. And I know that System Restore probably would have been smarter here because I have those extra files. However, I want them to be gone. That's the whole point of this. I want to demonstrate that they'll disappear. So preparing 2%, keep your device on, and I'm just going to let this do its thing. And now it actually says it's restoring your device, so it took quite a bit to repair. It seems that the restoration is going much faster, but the preparing took at least a few minutes. Like, that took a bit of time. However, is our VM fixed? Is our VM gonna log in? And are our files gone? Which I assume yes to all of that. So, you guys could see, it actually worked. Our VM is back. It booted up successfully. Now, I don't expect our files to be there, so if I go to downloads, yeah, it deleted a lot of stuff from here. I go to documents, yep, all the extra files are gone. Pictures, yep, all our extra wallpapers are gone. Music, nope, nothing. Videos, nothing. And if I go to this PC, the script's gone, and even the logs folder. So it did actually do what it said. It restored to a snapshot. So a snapshot where it was working, and all the extra files that we added after the snapshot were erased. Now for this next demo, let's try something a bit more drastic. Now this time I decided just to copy some of the wallpapers back, which I should have changed the wallpaper last time, but honestly it would have just reverted to this one anyway because it is a snapshot. But I mean, I guess we'll change it for this, but it's not going to really change anything if it doesn't work. However, let's go a bit more drastic. So I'm going to delete System32 on this virtual machine, which, by the way, System32 is like really important. You need it, obviously, for your computer to work. I know that meme where people say, oh, System32 is a virus. No, it's not, okay? You need System32, obviously, for the computer to function. So we're going to try deleting System32 and seeing if a point-in-time restore will save us. So I'm actually doing this as TI, so it probably will delete quite a bit more out of System32 because, you know, I'm running with more elevated permissions. However, do you think point-in-time restore will be able to recover such a severe damage like this? Because, I mean, it is a system image, so pretty much is a system image, which it finished, and there's basically nothing here now. Like, everything's gone. Things are probably not going to open. Like, if I try to open Notepad or Notepad++, yeah, nothing's working. Control panel doesn't open. Task manager doesn't open. It's all screwed up. If I reboot this, it's probably going to immediately PIR, which it won't even let me reboot, probably because shutdown.exe is gone. So let's just reset the VM, and will it recover from such a damage like this? Yeah, it's not going to boot. Like, this was way worse than what I did earlier to this virtual machine, so we really need a point-in-time restore here. So, diagnosing your PC, and it couldn't repair. Well, no need to worry. We got point-in-time restore. So if I click point-in-time restore, we actually get an error. We've encountered an issue during point-in-time restore. The execution failed, and we get an error code, which off the top of my head, I believe that means path not found. So I'm almost certain that, you know, it deleted something that it wasn't supposed to. Because if I go to troubleshoot advanced and I go to system restore, there's not going to be any restore points, because yes, if you do a system32 deletion, the restore points also get deleted too, which I know that from, you know, past testing of system restore and stuff. You cannot system restore from a catastrophic damage. So obviously, if system restore doesn't work from this, I wouldn't think a point-in-time restore would work either. So there are risks with point-in-time restore not working if the damage is too severe. But if it's just a slight damage that even, you know, system restore can recover from, then this is guaranteed to as well. So yeah, this VM is gone and it's not going to work again. So you can't survive that. Now these next clips were supposed to show that you can use system restore alongside point-in-time restore. However, I made some interesting discoveries, so I'm re-recording this. So if I go to troubleshoot and I go to point-in-time restore, you will see that I actually have a point-in-time restore point from July 3rd at 2:23 p.m. Now, I'm obviously not going to restore that, so I'm going to cancel it. I'm going to go to troubleshoot, advanced, system restore, and you guys will see that I have 3 restore points. One from July 1st at 12:31 p.m., July 3rd at 1:22 p.m., which was like an hour before the point-in-time restore point was created, and then this one from July 3rd at 11:48 p.m., which was after the point-in-time restore point was created. So that means that these two were actually created before the feature was enabled entirely. So what happens if you try to restore to a restore point that was before the point-in-time restore point? Well, if I go to restore it and I hit finish, yes, it will say preparing to restore your system, and then it just kicks me back and it just doesn't work. Strange, right? What if I go back to system restore and I try the one above it, which was also before? I'm going to try to restore this one. And again, it just does the same thing. Now, let's actually try to system restore to the one after the point-in-time restore point was created. This was way later in the day, and let's see if this one works. Which, to my surprise, it works. Now, why does this restore point work and not the other ones? And if you're thinking, oh, it's because they were created before the point-in-time restore point, you're actually wrong. It's because the first point-in-time restore point, when that's created, it invalidates all the older restore points. They seem to not work despite being there still. And it's really strange how they would still be there even though they don't work. And there's actually a way to view the shadow copies, and I did a command, I'll pull up the screenshot. They were all still there. But you'll see that the point-in-time restore point on there kind of differs in what it says, which you guys will notice the difference when you guys look at it, because I don't have the screenshot in front of me right now, but I will point to it, and you'll see that they are all still there. I even mounted it, and all the files were also still there, so I was really confused as to why it wasn't working. And when I tried to system restore within Windows, it gave me an error that said the data is invalid. So my guess is that it invalidated it or something happened with it and they no longer work. The reason I say that is because I actually went and created another point-in-time restore point after I had a system restore point created, and it worked. So it seems like it's only the first point in time that it breaks the older ones. If it creates another one after that and you have a system restore point right before the second one, then it works. So you guys can actually do more experimenting with this, but I am going to end the video here. I would show all of it, but this video is already pretty long and I thought I would just talk about my findings. So best thing to say clear all your system restore points and everything out when you first enable point in time restore, and then create a point in time restore point. And then after that, any other restore points or point in time restores can be created and can be used from my experience. So just because your system restore point is before the point in time does not mean you can't use it. It's just if it's the first point in time restore point, you can't. But if it's like the second one it's created or the third one, etc., or you just clear them all out, you should be good to go. But it's always best to just know this information, and yeah. So feel free to test it and leave your comments down below. Now, without further ado, I'm going to go back to the original outro of this video because I cut out a lot of those tests because I had discovered this and I didn't know this at the time. Personal opinion, I actually prefer System Restore because it seems to take a lot less time, as it takes a long time to prepare when you're doing point in time restore, but System Restore is pretty instant and takes a lot less time in my opinion. And point in time restore actually affects user files and seems like it can't even recover from serious damage that System Restore can't recover from either. Probably because it's on the same drive. Anyways guys, that's going to be it for this video of me experimenting with point in time restore. I will say that I still prefer System Restore over this, but what do you guys prefer? Feel free to leave a comment down below, but that is it for my experimenting and tinkering around with it. Anyways guys, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed this video. Also thanks to all of my channel members, which are Apathio7, Aqua95, AquaHuskyWX, Atekaro, Chris Garrett, Christian1739, Damon Mars, Dencorn, DJ1928, Electronic Surge 3.0, Gap Gaming, Gazelle Edge, Mike Rea, Overgreen, Cyclone, Railroad Buff, Rambos1234, Riley Burrell Tech, Suwon LEL, Stratic Gate, Samir Yoshizawa, TDSTP, Zach Techplace, Ziggyos, along with everyone else here on this list. I really appreciate you guys' support for being channel members. It really means a lot to me. Hope you guys are happy with all the cool new changes coming up, but I do have more videos coming soon. Anyways, sorry for not uploading much. I've had a lot going on in life. However, I'm going to start trying to upload more videos as I have some more ideas in mind. So yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. More videos coming soon, and bye bye for now.